All right, Mr. Snow, how do you define active learning?
Well, with me, when I'm looking at active learner, it's going to be a student that's actually moving around in the class. They're thinking about the stuff that they're doing. Basically any teacher that wants a kid to really learn a concept, they're going to have to make them think on their feet. They're going to have to evaluate, what do I know from the past? How can I relate it to what I'm learning now? So you really have to be involved in everything. It really doesn't fit into the lecture model that a lot of schools do. That's one of the reasons that the model we use is to try to make sure the kids are moving around, using their hands, talking to other students, talking to the teachers, using different softwares, because we try to make them actively part of their education so they figure out all the concepts.
Right. So when you walk into a room, that's what you're looking for. You're looking to see, you want movement, you want conversation. That's what you're hunting.
When I go into a classroom, one of the first things I want to do is I want to make sure that they're usually set up in groups. We use a station rotation model, and that means basically you might have a small group, kids working together. You might have some individual work. You might have a small group with a teacher. Sometimes in that small group, they might be doing a little whole group activity there to start off or something. But I want to make sure that those kids are in areas being engaged.
Right.
Make sure that they're, whether it's working on a software program or it's interacting with a teacher or helping other students. You want to make sure that what they're doing is going to help them in the end. You don't want them just sitting there, like again, back in a lecture situation, just sitting there looking, trying to absorb or dozing off or whatever. You want them doing something.
Right.
I want to make sure that while they're in the classroom, they have the expert, the teacher there. So if they have questions, they can ask questions. If they have questions and another student can help them, they can do it that way. But I want them to be moving. There's no such thing to me as being in there and everybody just being perfectly silent, nothing going on. Because, a lot of times when that's going on, the kids are trying to do stuff they shouldn't be doing. They might be on a different website. But as long as you're talking about the subject and you're interacting with each other about the subject, you're more likely to pay attention. I think the kids remember it better.
Right. And you mentioned online website and maybe being in the wrong place. A lot of what y'all do, and I know it's not 100%, but a lot of what y'all do has technology. It's software programs, this, that, whatever, has technology, or has that technology that y'all use, has it really helped in that active learning model? Has it made the kids take that route?
It's one of those situations to where the use of technology or curriculum programs, stuff like that, it makes it easier. In the past, I've seen schools that were doing master-based learning and using paper pencil. Basically, they hand you a packet of papers and you're going to use the textbook or whatever to do the work. By using the technology, you don't have to deal with the packets of paper. You don't have to deal with the textbook. They actually have to go out sometimes and search for the answers.
Right.
It's not just page 3, here's the answer. They might have to go to 4 or 5 different websites, like on WebQuest, to figure out what is the best answer for this. Or if it's a scripted program, something like Compass or something that has an actual lesson in there, they have to watch the lesson, take the notes, and figure out what it is from the lesson, as opposed to just being able to just turn directly to here's the answer. When I was in school, it was a textbook that's okay, find this answer. First thing I did is look for the bold words.
Right. Yeah.
Main idea is it's not that easy now. You
Right.
can actually look up stuff like that and pinpoint it, but you're going to have to learn about it before you can pinpoint
Right.
anything.
So you'd say that really and truly the technology at your school, it really has helped the kids' thinking skills, their processing ability.
It's helped their ability to research and find answers. In today's world, one of the reasons we made the shift was that we looked at what businesses wanted. There's actual reports out there you can find. I think SAS does one to where it talks about what people that on the job want from a worker.
Right.
And they want somebody that can problem solve. They want somebody that can learn new concepts, not somebody that just knows just one job. But if I need to move you over here to be more productive for my company or for something, you can learn it.
Right.
They want somebody that can do that and function that way, work with individuals or work alone, just depends on the situation. In the model that education used to be, it wasn't that way. You know how it was. It was regimental. You sat in a row, you sat there, a teacher told you everything, you wrote down your notes, you looked at your book, and that's what you did.
Right.
By doing this, you're trying to teach them to work together, activities, character education, like in team time and stuff, to make sure that the kids are learning even if you don't get along with somebody or you don't know somebody as well, you can still work with them and
Right.
come up with an answer.
Right. So what have you had to do over the course of your tenure to really make sure that your teachers know what you expect? That model, that learning model, make sure they're prepared, they're trained, they're ready to go, and they're accomplishing what you're looking to accomplish.
Well, when we first started the writing model, we actually had teachers involved. It wasn't all the teachers. We had a few, lead teachers when we were sitting there trying to figure out the model we wanted to go to. And then after we decided on that, we brought in people, like JSU's in service. We had them come in and help with some of the stuff dealing with math books because we weren't as familiar with math books. We would have companies come in that work with different curriculum softwares and let them go work with the teachers, show them how to demonstrate. We'd do PD days and things like that. Myself, I would try to show them different things that I've learned. We would do research and look at different charter schools and people that do some of the stuff we're looking at, kind of our best practices. We actually took the staff right before our first year of implementation of a one-to-one. We actually took, it was like between 80 and 90% of our whole faculty to Mooresville, North Carolina, because they were a one-to-one and they were doing it right. So we took our faculty and they went up there to learn how they've done it, and did a summer workshop to just kind of catapult off them. We wanted to see where they were, and it took them 4 or 5 years to get there. Our idea was we can do it in a year or two, and I think in a lot of ways we did. We talked about what were their issues, problems they had, and stuff like that, so we could bypass those. And now we have people come to us. We try to explain to them the issues we've had, so hopefully when they start theirs, they can bypass those issues and go further than we did.
Right. How did y'all take that once you had everybody trained in your school system and your administrators, y'all had a vision, a goal? How did y'all relay that message? I mean, how did you really get the message out that this was going to be the best way? How did you involve the community? How did they know that the school's doing what's best for the kids?
Well, we started off, we had like community meetings, like, where we invite parents up to talk to them about how the school year was going to be. And we did a couple of those before school started that first year. But we found out after, like when I school with the mastery-based learning, some people didn't come to the meetings. Of course, you never get 100%. And even some of the people that came to the meeting, they thought it was just going to be a meeting about this, so they didn't pay attention as much.
Right.
So even though we went over the stuff and the different times during the day, a lot of people didn't pay attention to it. So once the school year started up and we saw that parents weren't quite understanding it and they had a lot of questions about how we're doing grading and stuff like that, we actually had a couple more meetings and advertised those during the school day and had parents come in. We explained what was going on. And what I would do at my school is we would set up days to where, if parents had an issue about how to work Blackboard, how to work, Compass, how to work Mastery Connect or something like that, they could come in and my lead teacher would sit down with them and show them anything they wanted to know about what's going on, how we're doing things, so they can be active in that education and looking up and figuring out how they can help their child.
Okay. Finally, core here at JSU, we're in the process of developing an active administrator model. And in your mind, what does that really look like? What would you consider an active administrator?
To be an active administrator, you're going to have to be somebody that's going to be in the classrooms, in the hallways. You've got to be, honestly, you're going to have to be researching. That's one thing that I do a lot of is I'll look up best practices. I'll look up, websites or schools. I'll go to YouTube and find schools like Carpe Diem or stuff that are doing things that I'm interested in and watch how they're doing it and learn more about that. And any of those concepts that I like, that I think can transfer to me or my school, that's what we do. And, anybody that wants to kind of push that envelope with being, innovative or something, they really need to know what's going on and how can they adapt to help their kids. Because, I can look at a school like Aspire or Summit or Carpe Diem or something like that and love the ideas they're doing. But in Piedmont City, all those ideas won't transfer. But I can take something from this school, a couple of things from this school, and then move it in there and make it our own.
Right.
So that's why anybody that wants to be an active learner or administrator, I think they're going to have to be able to do that and want to do that. They can't be happy with just, used to a principal was a manager your job was to be in the office and you're to manage the money, manage the teachers, manage the discipline, stuff like that. Now it's geared more toward instruction, because when everybody's looking at you for test scores and everybody's trying to see how you're doing this and how you're helping these students and what are you doing to, helping the community in this area. So now you have to be that manager, but you also have to be an instructional leader.
Right.
And that's the concept of being an active administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Snow.